Welcome everyone to Donington Park and the GB3 Championship in association with the BRDC. The second race of the weekend is only a few minutes away, although we are going to get two formation laps for this race because as you can see, it's a little bit damp, it's a little bit wet, it's a little bit slippery out on circuit, and it wasn't yesterday. So because of the change of conditions, two warm-up laps being given to the drivers ahead of this race, and they will need them because Donington is notoriously slippery in the wet. I know all racetracks are, but Donington especially is very, very slippery when the rain comes down. So this is going to be a very entertaining penultimate round of the 2021 GB3 Championship. So the second race of the weekend for the GB3 Championship in association with the BRDC here from Donington Park. Yesterday's race was pretty exciting, it must be said. It was a race that was won by Zach O'Sullivan by less than a second over Rhys Ushijima in second place, but there was lots of action behind them, especially on the opening lap. We had all three high-tech Grand Prix cars starting inside the top four positions, as they're doing again today. But unfortunately, by the end of lap one, two of them were essentially out of the race because Bart Horston had a little bit of contact at the start of the race with Sebastian Alvarez, his teammate, going through turn one. That punctured the right rear tyre on Horston's car. It damaged the front wing on Alvarez's car, and he was then subsequently caught up in a second incident up at McLean's corner, which also claimed three of our championship front runners. The championship has now been officially wrapped up by Zach O'Sullivan, but his nearest three rivals in the points, as it happens, all caught up in a lap one accident yesterday. Hopefully they'll keep it clean in this one. The grid, though, is once again based upon qualifying tyres, so it puts these high-tech cars back at the front of the field. It's Ushijima, though, that gets the pole this time, alongside yesterday's pole sitter, or second-place man, I should say, on the grid, Bart Horston. The champion-elect, Zach O'Sullivan, starts third for Carlin, and then the third of those high-tech cars lines up fourth on the grid, that being Alvarez. Roman BILINSKI is fifth, alongside Christian Mansell. Now, he was one of those that was out up at McLean's on the opening lap yesterday. So, too, were Ayrton Simmons and Roberto Farri, who start right behind him on the fourth row today. Tom LEBBON and Brandon Oxley rounding out the top 10. Oxley had a brilliant drive in yesterday's race to fourth position. Expect him to make more progress from there in this one. Then it's James Headley and Javier Segura, as there's a little bit of racing going on when it really shouldn't. The race has technically started, the clock has started ticking down, but this is still the second warm-up lap. BRYCE, ARON and Jonathan Brown then are on the seventh row of the grid together. Carlin and Hillspeed represented there, ahead of FREDERICK LUBIN and Alex Fors, who struggled a bit yesterday but gained a lot of places early on as those ahead fell off the road. Then on the ninth row of the grid, we've got Tommy Smith, who tangled with his Douglas Motorsport teammate Rima Jafali on the first lap yesterday. Slightly embarrassing situation for the Douglas team. Hopefully they'll stay away from each other this time around. Flynn Jakes, meanwhile, is 18th on the grid. Eduardo Cosseteng makes his debut. He is 19th on the grid, ahead of Rima Jafali, who, as I said, was caught up in that tangle down at the hairpin. And then right at the back, a 21-car grid, and it's Mikael Grundvig who rounds them out. 21 cars is a joint record grid. We last saw 21 of these GB3 cars on the grid way back in 2016. So the second formation lap then about to be completed. It's going to be a rolling start here for the GB3 Championship in association with the BRDC because of the very wet conditions here at Donington Park and the field being led to this essential race start by Rhys Ushijima with his teammate Bart Horston behind him. The green flags wave. We're away and racing here at Donington Park then, and the rush towards Redgate Corner and the pall of spray start to form. Into that first turn they go then, Ushijima hanging on to the lead. Is anyone going to be brave enough to make a move? Not on the way in, but on the way out. It did look maybe like Horston was challenging, but he gets way too much wheel spin. Slides out wide. Zach O'Sullivan goes on the inside of him for P2. Side by side through the crane of curves. That's really tricky to do at the best of times, especially with the amount of standing water that we've got today. And it is Horston then that hangs on, but then he outbrakes himself. Horston wide down at the old hairpin. He's over the concrete runoff area. His teammate Alvarez sideways in the background. And Zach O'Sullivan, the champion-elect, moves into second place. Bart Horston will not be happy with that. That's two races that he started second from this weekend. And on both occasions, he's lost ground on the first lap. BILINSKI into the side of Alvarez, who again, for the second time this weekend, is involved in contact to McLean's on the opening lap. This time, thankfully, he only loses a handful handful of positions rather than going off the road completely. BILINSKI through, so too Christian Mansell and AYRTON Simmons in the red, yellow and black Chris Dittman racing car. So 3 places lost for Alvarez, another not brilliant start to the race really for High Tech Grand Prix, although they do still retain the race lead thanks to the efforts of the Japanese driver Rhys Ushijima, who leads the way, but only just. Zach O'Sullivan is going with him here and actually looks the quicker of the two right now. O'Sullivan goes to the inside for the race lead down at the Melbourne hairpin. Can he get the car stopped? Well, sort of. He runs wide, and so on the exit of the corner, Ushijima is quicker, gets back alongside, but this will be the outside line for the final turn. We're going to turn left now, and that should favour the car on the inside, and indeed it does. Zach O'Sullivan then, from third at the start, moves into the race lead by the end of the first racing lap, although those 2 warm-up laps did count towards the race distance. So we finish essentially the third lap of the race with O'Sullivan now the race leader by 6/10. Ushijima second, Horston third, and then side by side for fourth, Christian Mansell to the outside of Roman BILINSKI, whose car may be a little wounded after that bit of wheel banging that he had with Alvarez half a lap ago. Runs a bit wide on the exit, Mansell back on the inside line, wheel to wheel through Hollywood, and I think the Carling car is going to make its way through, surely through the Craners. Yes, he does, and BILINSKI surely can't see where he's going. He's tucked right up behind the 21 car and therefore has a face full of spray, and that maybe leads to him running a bit wide over that painted runoff area down at the old hairpin. So dramatic opening lap and a half of racing then. O'Sullivan with the lead now should have the pace to get away, really. Certainly based on the way that he caught and pretty quickly overtook Rhys Ushijima. He should, I reckon, have the speed to build a bit of a gap here at the front of the field. You caught a glimpse of Bryce ARON in another one of those Carling cars, number 23. He picked up 2 positions, actually, on the opening lap, so Bryce ARON into 11th. Meanwhile, what's been going on here, that's Tom LEBBON going up the inside of Roberto Faria, and there is contact, and Tom LEBBON loses his front wing. Now, that's definitely going to hurt his performance, even in the wet. You need that front downforce, so expect Tom LEBBON to start dropping down from his 9th position that he currently occupies. So, down into the Melbourne hairpin we go then. Where's the next bit of drama going to come from? Well, there is Faria. He's carried on, and indeed the next car behind him is no longer Tom LEBBON. It's now this battling pair of Bryce ARON in the number 23 and Brandon Oxley in the number 68. Oxley didn't pick up quite as many places on the first lap this time as he did yesterday, but he's held position, picking up 1 now from the damaged car of Tom LEBBON, which has indeed started to fade down the order, and I reckon will probably be into the pit lane for a new front wing in short order. Across the line they go then. It's a job to see who's coming next. There is LEBBON into the pit lane in the background, so Tom LEBBON does indeed pit now for a new front wing. He lost a handful of places, but he was likely to lose more as a result of that damage and the lack of front aero that he would have been suffering from. So this battle then now becomes the one for 9th place. Bryce ARON up another 2 positions on that lap. He is absolutely flying in the blue Carling car with the yellow highlights. And Bryce ARON, who did some Formula 4 racing with a reasonable amount of success in the recent past, moving up into GB3 this year. And he's had a bit of a rough season at times, but looking strong now towards the end of the year. The Elite Motorsport squad go to work, fitting a new nose onto the Tom LEBBON car. That's going to drop him, unfortunately, right to the back of the field. So out onto the back straight though goes Zach O'Sullivan. Zach wrapped up the title yesterday. All he really had to do was turn up to Donington Park, in all honesty. As long as he finished that first race, which he did, he won it, then that was always going to be enough to wrap up the championship for him. So he can now go out there and just enjoy these final 2 races of the season. Big sideways moment there for, that was Alvarez, wasn't it? Yeah, number 12, Sebastian Alvarez, but keeps the High Tech Grand Prix car pointing vaguely in the right direction. The real interest then, as far as the points are concerned, coming into these final 2 races of the year, is who is going to finish second in the championship, because AYRTON Simmons, who you can see there in the 6th placed car, trying to find a way past Roman BILINSKI, he is second in the points, but now only 5 points clear of Christian Mansell. Now Mansell at the moment is 4th, and Simmons is 6th, so Mansell is outscoring AYRTON Simmons, and therefore is going to close in on this 2nd place in the championship. In fact, he might even be able to take 2nd place away based on what the results are at the end of this race. So Mansell going strongly, not out of contention either is Ushijima. Ushijima is 10 points further back, so Rhys is 15 points away from 2nd place in the championship, but leads the race. So, no, he's 2nd in the race, I should say. So this is going to be a championship battle, maybe not for the overall title, but for P2, that rumbles on right to the very end of the year, I think, in that third race a little bit later on today, which of course is also the reversed grid race. So well worth tuning in for that one a little bit later on today. Right there, 10-second penalties being handed out for car number 33. That is Flynn Jakes as Simmons and BILINSKI go wheel to wheel now. Simmons is on the inside of BILINSKI. They almost touch going towards Coppice corner, but AYRTON Simmons commits to the move on the inside. He runs wide though, and BILINSKI with a brilliant switchback manoeuvre gets back up the inside, and now they're delaying each other and allowing the Alvarez car behind to close in as well. So three of them together now as they fight for fifth place, and AYRTON Simmons cannot afford to lose any places here. He chops across the nose of Sebastian Alvarez, almost contact, and now Alvarez is off. Alvarez with a wheel on the grass, outbrakes himself down into the chicane and loses positions when it looked like he might be about to gain some. So that was sketchy stuff there from AYRTON Simmons, but in the end he survives, and Alvarez is the one that drops back. He's fallen, I think, out of the top 10 now, has Sebastian Alvarez, which really does rather sum up his weekend. Lots of potential from him here at Donington Park that hasn't necessarily been converted into good race results. Started telling you about these 10-second penalties. One of them for Flynn Jakes, the other one is for Alex Fours. Fours is 13th, Jakes is 16th. They are 10-second false start penalties. So they, how you can have a false start when it's a rolling start is beyond me, quite honestly, but I guess maybe they overtook or were out of position before the start of the race. That is good going, though, to get a false start penalty when it's a rolling start, and a single file rolling start at that. But anyway, those two, therefore, will drop towards the back of the field pretty much once those 10 seconds are applied. So O'Sullivan leads by, get this, nearly 6 seconds as we're halfway through the 12-lap race now. 5.8 specifically is the margin between the top two. Ushijima second, Horston third, Mansell fourth, scoring good points. I'm hearing that Alex Fours and Flynn Jakes' penalties are because they fell to the back of the queue during those warm-up laps and then retook their positions in the line, which you're not allowed to do. If you fall right to the back of the field, then you must start the race from the very back end. Simmons, meanwhile, learning from his mistakes a lap ago, now goes to the outside of Roman BILINSKI, and one of the moves of the season there for AYRTON Simmons. He breaks through into the top 5. That was inch-perfect driving from both of them, in fairness, because Roman BILINSKI could have squeezed him wider. That would almost certainly have ended in contact, left him just, and I mean just enough room, and they came out of the corner cleanly. Brilliant racing, and Simmons is now 5th, but BILINSKI is coming back at him, look, as they go towards the Melbourne hairpin. Goes from the outside to the inside to the middle, but whichever way he goes, Simmons has it covered. Runs a bit wide, does the 18 car, but there's maybe a bit more traction out on that wide line, and so he sort of comes off the corner a little bit quicker, manages to retain the place. Brilliant racing between these two. So Simmons then into P5. This starts now to change the championship picture a little bit more, of course. Further up the order he finishes, the fewer points Ushijima and Mansell are taking out of him. Ushijima still second place, though, which means that Rees is on course at the moment for 29 championship points. Christian Mansell is 4th, and so he's going to be on for about 20 or so. So this is going to be very, very close still in the points going into that final round of the championship. None of this is of much concern to Zach O'Sullivan. He's already wrapped up the title, and he's, as near as damn it, wrapped up this race, really. 6.3 seconds is his margin now over Rees Ushijima in second place. Rees is only 1.3 ahead of Bart Horston, his teammate, though, who in turn is only 1.1 ahead of Christian Mansell, who's just set the fastest lap in 4th place at 1:42.503. So Mansell fastest on the track, and on that previous lap was nearly a full second quicker than Bart Horston ahead of him. So third place, third step on the podium, could be under threat before the end of the race. The end of the race, by the way, might not be in 4.5 laps. It might come sooner because it's a 12-lap race or 20 minutes, whichever comes first. Now, normally we get the full quota of laps in, but because we have those 2 safety car laps essentially to start the race, we might just run out of time. There are 4.5 minutes to go, and they've got just over 4 laps to do. So we're definitely not going to get to the end of lap number 12. It will therefore be a time-certain race. So keep you up to date on how much time is left as we move into the final part of the race. Out of the Melbourne hairpin they go then, towards the end of another lap of the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit, the nearly 2.5-mile circuit, which is a real driver's favourite, although maybe not a favourite of Roberto Faria, since he doesn't really want to stay on it. He runs very wide there out of the, or through the middle really, of the Goddard's hairpin. and that's not the first time we've seen him off the track this weekend, of course, after his incident on lap 1 yesterday. So Farrier losing more ground, and of course he was also mathematically in contention for this P2 in the championship. He was 27 points behind Ayrton Simmons, but of course he was running not that far behind Ayrton in this race, only a couple of places behind, but he drops down to 9th place now as a result of that, and that will pretty much take him out of contention for that second spot in the points. Drivers being given a general warning by race control to obey track limits. I mean, honestly, anyone that's running out over those curbs and the concrete runoff areas is probably asking for trouble right now, because they will be perilously slippery in the wet. But typical of these drivers, really, and the competitive nature of the championship, that they're still pushing and they're still trying to extract the maximum performance that they can out of their cars. This battle then continues on, although Ayrton Simmons very much checking out now, isn't he, in 5th position. BILINSKI 6th. Bryce ARON up another spot now into 7th place. Where did Bryce start this race? He was 13th on the grid, Bryce ARON, and he's up into 7th now. That is a remarkable recovery drive, really. Oh, Farrier's wide. He's going to lose a place to Alvarez as a result. Roberto Farrier really at 6s and 7s in these conditions, isn't he? Another mistake there. He's second within a lap, and he will now lose 9th position as a result. So Sebastian Alvarez, who started 4th, remember, now does break into 9th position, or does he? Farrier tries to come back at him on the exit of the corner. Couldn't quite get there, though. 2.5 minutes to go then, as you can see at the top of your screen. A 5-second penalty now being handed out to James Headley for, guess what, track limits, as Roberto Farrier absolutely sends it up the inside of Alvarez and reclaims 9th spot. Alvarez not happy with that, though, and fights back again alongside him, heading towards Redgate Corner. Someone's going to have to give here. Into the right-hander they go, onto what should be the penultimate lap of the race then. The outside line for Alvarez should be grippier, but it's perilous out on that wide line. You can see the extra traction that he had, though, coming off the corner. He scoots ahead of the number 7 car, and Alvarez is now back in 9th place, despite being fractionally behind by 86 1,000ths of a second at the start of the lap. Bryce ARON then heads out of the old hairpin. I was about to say, before it all kicked off there, that Christian Mansell is now less than a second behind Bart Horston for 3rd as well. So Mansell, his lap times have slowed down now that he's caught the 3rd place man, but that is pretty tight. Another track limits penalty now, as we cut to, that was handy, the car that's been given a 5-second penalty, which is the 55 car of Tommy Smith, the blue and white Douglas car, the latest to be pinged for track limits. So already almost at the limits of adhesion there, going through Schwantz curve, had a big wiggle, and the car behind him now looks to try and find a way through, that being Mikael Grundtvig. He started last on the grid, but because partly of other people's misfortune and also some good driving from him, has now moved into 16th place. In fact, that might now be 15th place on the road. Race leaders come up through towards the end of another lap, while 2nd, 3rd and 4th do. Zach O'Sullivan's already gone on to what will be his 11th and final lap of the race, because with less than a minute to go, O'Sullivan is going to see the checkered flag next time through. 2nd place Ushijima, but look how close it is now for 3rd place. Christian Mansell looking to the inside of Bart Horston. Mansell, another new fastest lap. Look at him, 1 minute 42.173. Unlike a lot of other championships which award bonus points for setting the fastest lap, I don't believe that's the case in GB3, so it's bragging rights rather than a championship point that Mansell's earned himself. But he is, of course, more interested in claiming 3rd position from Bart Horston ahead of him then. The two Aussies together. This should be an entertaining battle over the final half a lap, up through Starkeys, into Schwantz curve, and then the braking zone at McLean's. It is possible to overtake here, but I don't think Mansell's quite close enough. Looks to the inside, but yeah, he was a car length or so too far back. Both of them not making friends with the apex, but that's because, again, that wider line is where the grip is in the wet, and so it looks as though they're making mistakes, but they're not. That was a mistake, though, from Horston, and he runs wide going through Coppice Corner, and I do not believe it. Bart Horston, the unluckiest driver in the GB3 Championship, is going to lose 3rd place with less than half a lap to go. Christian Mansell gets past him. Now, can Horston fight back? That's the next question. Looks to the outside into the chicane, tries to get a good exit, but he's overdone it. He runs too deep, and Bart Horston will now have to settle surely for 4th position, although he'll be very happy to see that Christian Mansell did run wide just ahead of him. It's Mansell's Carlin teammate, though, Zach O'Sullivan, who will come into the final corner now to take yet another race victory. He claimed his 6th win of the year yesterday, and this will be his 7th victory in 2021. He's already the champion, and now he's a double race winner here at Donington Park. Zach O'Sullivan wins in the GB3 Championship in association with the BRDC. Rhys Ushijima is in 2nd place, and Christian Mansell will come home in 3rd position, wrestling that final spot on the podium away from Mark Horston on the final lap of the race. Across the line comes AYRTON Simmons in 5th position. Meanwhile, BILINSKI 6th, Bryce ARON 7th. Still good battles going on a bit further down the order, though, here. That is Javier Segura, who we haven't seen much of this weekend, but the black number 3 car is 12th place on the road. Comes across the line actually in 11th because of the penalty for Alex Fours that I mentioned earlier on, because of the false start, as Team Carlin are congratulating each other, getting congratulated by a member of the Team Park Racing squad as well, who are obviously sharing that particular bit of the pit lane for their British GT duties this weekend. Zach O'Sullivan now, I mean, what can we say about Zach? He has just been on fine form. Had a bit of a blip in the middle part of the year, it must be said. Snetterton wasn't great, Silverstone's first race wasn't terrific either. It looked as though Zach was going to wrap the championship up at Alton Park last time out, but was battling away for the race lead and went off the road in slippery conditions, hit the wall, and Zach O'Sullivan, who I'm not convinced has seen the checkered flag based on the way that he's pushing on what should be his in-lap, essentially, after the race has now officially finished. But Zach didn't win the championship, therefore, at Alton. It meant that he still had to come to Donington Park and do what was needed to be done in order to claim the title. He did that yesterday in fine fashion with a fighting race victory. Really going wheel to wheel with Rhys Ushijima in the opening lap, and today coming from 3rd on the grid to do it all again. So O'Sullivan then is your race winner. Rhys Ushijima is 2nd. Christian Mansell rounding out the podium after a terrific final few laps where he caught and passed Bart Horston with less than half a lap to go. Bart is 4th and again misses out on the podium. AYRTON Simmons 5th ahead of Roman BILINSKI. Bryce ARON, who moved up from 13th on the grid to finish in 7th place. Brandon Oxley, another solid drive there in 8th. Alvarez was 9th. He had a difficult race, and so did Roberto Faria, who finishes in 10th place ahead of Segura, Headley, Lubin, Mikael Grundtvig and Alex Fours in 15th. Zach O'Sullivan then, a winner here at Donington Park for the 2nd time this weekend. Can he do the hat-trick? That's the next question. Well, if he is going to do it, he's going to have some work to do, because he'll have to come from towards the back of the grid in the 3rd race of the weekend. That is the race that has a full reversed grid. A thumbs up, a smile on the face, I'd imagine, behind the helmet, and a rather soggy Zach O'Sullivan climbs out of his Carlin GB3 car. The last time this year, the last time ever, I should say, that we're going to see the Tatius Mountune GB3 car in action. It's being replaced by a new Tatius chassis, the MSV 022 for 2022. Fitting then that we've got this 21 car grid, as I said, a joint biggest grid that we've had in GB3 history for this car's final event. Zach O'Sullivan then, the champion-elect, the double race winner here at Donington Park. He's down there now chatting to Bryn Lucas.
Well, Zach, you've just got out of the car, 7th win of the season, started 3rd, won yesterday. It's going very nicely, isn't it, this season?
Yeah, I'm starting to like Donington a bit more now. Yeah, that race was awesome. We had so much pace. Just from the beginning, I felt like I had more grip. Managed to clear the 2 high techs within lap 1, and to be honest, I was still managing. So I think it was probably even a bit more time. Yeah, the car was awesome.
We're looking at the spray, we're looking at the conditions out there. You seem to deal with it very nicely. I mean, you finished some 7 seconds clear, more than that of the 2nd place driver. So what is it that you're getting from this car that others aren't?
I'm not too sure, really. I've made quite a lot of improvements throughout the year, especially in the wet with my driving, and I think that kind of showed off. It's the first kind of wet race we've had since the last one we've had where I struggled a bit more. So yeah, happy to get that win.
And of course, you won the title yesterday, so congratulations on that one. Another dominant display from you. 2021's been a good year for you.
It has, yeah. Inconsistent sometimes, but I think we've always been at the front. And yeah, obviously to clinch the title yesterday with the win was awesome.
Yeah, nice one, Zach. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Bryn. Zach Lucas. I don't know why Zach's saying that he's now starting to like Donington Park. He won the first 2 races last time we were at Donington in the summer. He may be referring to the collision that he had with his then championship rival Rhys Ushijima in the 3rd race. Hopefully no repeat of that later on this afternoon. The GB3 drivers will be back out again at about 4 o'clock, just after our British GT race here today. What will hopefully be a slightly less soggy Donington Park. It's not been a great day weather-wise. The forecast apparently says it's going to improve, but there's no wind here today, not really anyway, so the clouds and the rain, therefore, just sort of lingering. But this weather is not going to deter the spectators here at Donington Park, who are enjoying the spectacular views that this circuit offers. Podium presentations underway. Christian Mansell looks remarkably calm and composed for a man that just had one of his best drives of the season to snatch that third place on the last lap. Risa Shijima comes home in second place as well. He will be ruining the non-finish that he had here at Donington Park. In fact, he had two non-finishes at Donington earlier in the year after a collision with his teammate Horston in the first race, and then that collision with Zach O'Sullivan in the second race. But it's Zach that is victorious again here at Donington Park. His fourth Donington victory of the year. So of those 7 wins he's had, most of them coming at Donington Park. He'll be keen to try and get the hat-trick later on, but that's not going to be easy to do from the back of the grid.
Congratulations.
So a wet and rainy Donington Park greeted the GB3 Championship drivers for race number 2 of the weekend. It started behind the safety car with a rolling start, and it didn't take long for the drama to kick off. Tom LEBBON getting into the back of Roberto Faria, whilst Ayrton Simmons was in a very entertaining duel with Roman BILINSKI. He thought he'd made the move stick here for 5th position, but ran wide at Coppice. BILINSKI got him back, and then Sebastian Alvarez joined in the fight, only to go off down at the hairpin. In the closing stages of the race, Christian Mansell was catching his fellow Aussie Bart Horston for 3rd position. The Carlin driver was quicker, and a mistake up at Coppice for Horston opened the door, and Mansell scooted through into a podium place with less than half a lap to go. It was the man, though, who was crowned provisionally the champion yesterday, who claimed his 7th victory of the year, winning at Donington Park in the wet. He'll be aiming to do the same again later on this afternoon in the final race of the season.